We are Squawking Dead.
Hi, I'm Bridget. You like the apocalyptic wasteland? Yeah, me too. This is our coverage of Fallout Episode 3, and I'm pretty sure it's called The Head.
Sometimes we give you news. Sometimes we give you laughs. Most times we go deep. That's it. We're using it. I'm your host, David Camion, and we're joined by Cosmom09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, a.k.a. Blazy Gardner, Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. Our special guest for these coverages is of the Fallout series universe, gaming and otherwise, Karina Davey. You can reach at Instagram, which is at Karina_D. That's CARINAE_D. Check her out. She's great. Obviously. Have you seen this coverage? Have you seen her art? Showing up on the screen right now. We should have done that in the first episode, but why not? We'll do it. We'll do it now.
That's okay.
I have a playlist for this stuff. Don't square, Dave. You're on vacation and you forgot how to not swear.
Johnny Pemberton?
Thaddeus.
Squire Thaddeus officially as of this episode.
Yeah. Squire Thaddeus was on a little show that we all know him for, Superstore. He played Bo in an episode of Superstore. I don't know what episode because I found this on TikTok and I'm so sorry I couldn't go back and find it. Glenn asks Bo, where do you see yourself in the future, Bo?
Okay, where do you see yourself in the future?
Future, okay. So for real, I give this actually like a lot of thought. It's like there's no government, there's no laws. And I'm the head of like this roving murder gang kind of thing. But my best friend is a robot.
Ooh, very close.
Do you think he brought that up when he went in to do the audition to be like, look, in this TV show, I even said this is what I was going to do.
All he did was walk into casting, bring a boombox, a la, what's his name, John Cusack. He sets it down, he presses play.
So he say anything to them.
That's his audition.
The show probably approached him because of that line.
In real life, he pressed stop and he said, in your eyes, the light, the heat, I feel complete.
Why does he sound like that?
Because he's trying to make a bad impression of Peter Gabriel.
Sounded like Kermit's
That was
granddad.
a horrible impression of Peter Gabriel. The one Peter Gabriel. No. It's so bad. Stop doing what you're doing. It's like a Muppet shaped like Dave is singing it. I don't like it.
At least we won't get dinged for copyright.
Will this make the show? Will it not? Francisco, enjoy it while it lasts, because it might not.
That was important, and I felt like it needed to be shared.
I think that was cute. Excellent.
It is important.
Bridget,
Yes,
thank you for
Francisco,
that.
we are
You're
very
welcome.
chaotic.
By the way, there's a season 2, obviously. In addition to this...
So we're not getting a wrap up by the end of this, is what I'm preparing myself for.
Oh, no. Well, maybe...
They'll like get the head where it needs to go and do something with the head,
She'll
but then they'll move on to a different story.
Find her dad, but won't be able to rescue him until.
Well, we have to
next-
figure out
Making some
how
leaps.
the head
Trying
knew
to
her
look-
mom.
Karina's like, I already know.
Like, I'm not looking at Karina right now. Look at this. She's on this side of the screen.
I know. Every time I make a theory, I'm just staring at her like,
Don't
give
do
me
that.
some
Why
sort of
don't-
facial cue.
I love how she had to wipe her lip.
She could
just
be
for the
lying.
audio podcast. She's like, I'm looking
me?
at Karina right now.
Oh, I took a drink.
And everybody, and Bridget did it too just now. She's like, she's making me salivate also.
I
What's
drank
happening?
water.
I know. I just took a drink too.
I saw what I saw.
You saw what you wanted to see.
And then described what
actually
you felt
right.
like describing.
Okay, so I should also mention that the ratings for Fallout keeps going up. We're at 66 million viewers of the series basically right now.
Francisco's literally saying this in the chat as you're
there
saying
you go. Wow.
Yep.
Yay.
Thank you, Francisco. Yes,
Ahead of
65
us.
million
Keeping
viewers
us on
in 2 weeks
task.
for the first season. Yes, that's right.
That's
And
awesome.
that's highly unusual for this day and age.
Why?
Because when it comes to viewership of legal streaming media or otherwise or broadcast television, the most you'll usually get for a really standout series is 6.6 million, let's say. If you're doing gangbusters, it's like 22 after 2 weeks or a month, but not 66. And the whole series dropped and everybody's watched it. It's been 3 weeks since it aired.
Why is that? Are people watching it on other platforms, or are they just not watching
Amazon.
it? Or I guess I don't understand why this is such a big
It
deal.
helps that everybody
That's
in
the
the world
crazy
has
part.
Amazon Prime.
Right. And so they're all watching it legally, 66 million viewers. Now, what that also means, by the way, if you're
okay.
thinking about illegal downloads, who knows? That is something.
Yeah.
This was an Instagram post, by the way.
It feels like this episode is shorter, but that's okay. It definitely dives into some things pre-war, which is really cool because you don't get to see a lot of that, at least from a gaming standpoint. That's what I'm here for. Most of the pre-war stuff that you read about, literally you're reading about it on a computer terminal. Like, you're not seeing a flashback or watching a movie or anything like that. You're gathering information, and you might miss it entirely if you're not the kind of player who likes to look at that kind of stuff. So I really liked seeing that kind of thing because you don't see a lot of it in Fallout normally, at least playing the game.
I think all of us kind of have said this in a way when we're covering The Walking Dead. A lot of people talk about wanting to see the before, wanting to see origin stories and stuff like that. I'm okay with it here because that's the thing you really kind of want to give yourself context for the post-apocalyptic fall and how it might relate to one another, which we are kind of seeing in a way. The past kind of confronting the future, or the future confronting the past, and seeing what differs.
If you pay attention to what's happening with Cooper before, there are a lot of hints at what kind of person he becomes later. He is an actor, and he's uncomfortable portraying someone who would shoot someone in cold blood. And now he's the kind of person who absolutely would do that without even thinking about it. Just seeing how different he's become past to present, and it makes me want to see more of that story. And it really gets me interested in seeing how that change occurred.
I'm wondering if there's still a vestige of the old Cooper in him, and that's why he didn't automatically just blast Lucy. Because there's lots of people he could have just blasted and not cared, which the guys who dug him up and stuff, they weren't good people. Maybe there's still some part of Cooper in him, even after all this time, that won't allow him to kill Lucy for no reason because she's not a bad person. She's an innocent for the most part. I'm curious to see if that's what's going to happen.
Just to add a tiny bit to that, it's kind of the thing that I've been seeing every time he does something crazy. I try, but you look into his eyes and it's just kind of like, it's just flat. It's almost as if there's nothing there. You maybe see a trace of it, but you're not really sure. I'm not really sure.
The man's been alive for 200 plus years. In literature and in other media, we've seen this. Specifically, I'm going to go with vampires here, even though I don't want to be that girl. But the only reason I'm saying that is because that's often where we get people who have been alive for long periods of time. And usually what we see is that if you're alive for a very long period of time and you watch all of the people around you pass away,
especially
you are
really quickly,
destined to go insane.
The most generous interpretation is like there's nothing new under the sun.
Yes.
Too.
Correct.
Yeah.
That old
Correct.
canard.
Even the most extreme circumstance becomes very routine at that point. You've seen 100 people die. You've probably killed hundreds of people at that point. It's like Monday or whatever.
It's a day ending in Y.
I mean, I'm in my 30s, and when I think back to my 20s and how in my 20s I thought I knew absolutely everything there was to know under the sun. And now I am in my 30s and I'm like, that person was a total moron. And actually, when I see her Facebook status memories, it makes me cringe super hard.
When you hit 50, you're going to look back at your 30-something post and be like, what the hell was I thinking?
So that's the thing, like, right?
Yeah,
like,
it never
as time
stops.
passes, also, we become, you just develop further. So this episode, we got more Johnny Pemberton. And so, aces.
That's her impression.
More Johnny. I love him, and his character is great, and I'm very excited about it. And it was hilarious. Just general hijinks. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Just to chime in with Francisco's sake, there's still a lot of Cooper in the Ghoul, but also he tries to be himself in the world. He's in because he's moving his ultimate goal, which I wonder what that might be, which I have some thoughts on actually based on the soundtrack. But let's move on to Sharon D.
Like I was saying a little while ago, I want to go finish watching all the episodes.
Yeah.
But of
I
all
don't
the
blame
things
you.
I love about it, I think the music is what is really tickling my fancy, because the music in this is spot on.
Oh, what part of mom is the fancy? Sorry, Arrested Development. I had to.
Wait. Is that why you were laughing, all of you, though?
Yeah, the tickling my
Okay,
fancy.
okay.
Yeah.
Tickle my
Because you never
fancy.
know. But yeah.
I was referring
That's-
to the
that's
fingers
interesting
in
that
the
it's-
creature mouth tickle. But
Oh,
when Maximus was gonna beat those guys up, but they were trying to get into his suit, and they started, I was like, this is great. This is just the best. So
Johnny Cash,
yeah.
which is a callback to his first scene. They played the same music.
I have to agree because that's such a culture of the game. You find your favorite station on your Pip-Boy and you just adventure with some 50s banger on, or you're killing
yeah.
feral ghouls or shooting up raiders or whatever. It gives you such a vibe. I can't really describe it.
the other 50s thing that I really appreciate them sneaking in is the communist stuff where they're blackballed. Like the writer got fired for being a communist.
Oh, I'm loving
Being
that.
communist,
You know
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
because that's real history. Like that really was going on. In the first episode, they kind of mentioned it when the guys at the party were talking about Cooper, and they were like,
Yeah.
well, didn't he get, I don't know if they said blackballed or not, but they kind of insinuated that
yeah.
he wasn't in the industry anymore because he was blackballed.
That small pinko comment. So we're piecing things together about Cooper's past based on this. I wanted to just comment on the radio thing because a lot of that reminds me of when I played GTA for a short period of time. You do have the various stations in the car.
Yeah.
Laszlo's station was to me the best.
Laszlo.
And just chiming in. So, some of you do remember this. Okay. And I downloaded the actual station because I was like, I'm not playing GTA, but kind of just want to hear this. The whole thing played out.
Trav loves GTA 5 and goes back to it pretty frequently.
GTA 5, that's what it was.
And the Laszlo thing is just always hilarious.
There was a truly great radio station in Fallout 3 that had a host called Three Dog. It was my favorite one, and it's amazing. I may have mentioned this already, but if you go on YouTube or whatever and just look up Three Dog radio station, he's the best, and I wish he would come back. I want to see him in the show. I want to see him in another game. It was my favorite. There's a different radio broadcaster in Fallout 4, and he's terrible. There's a whole mission revolving around making him not terrible. So.
I think that was sort of like GTA. I think they had tried to bring Laszlo back in different iterations. It just wasn't the same as GTA 5, if I'm not mistaken. Let's comment on Francisco, as I find myself singing the songs after each episode, which I did comment on the last one, but after this one because of Maybe. And I did mention in the last episode that we use May We Meet Again as the closing. I use like a karaoke version of it in the closing of the audio podcast. So look out for that at the end of this podcast. And now I'm realizing there's a lot more significance to that song than I first thought of because I watched this episode, but we will get to that as we go to Rachel's first impression.
It is really hard not to watch ahead, but I'm excited to watch the episodes and then be able to talk about it. And this one in particular, I have a lot to say, but not a lot to say. I just have comments on everything that happened. Everything that happened, I'm like, that's so cool, or this or that, or
that's
like,
a good sign, though, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I think
it's
so.
like movement.
Yeah, like every little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yes, I loved that. This episode had one of my favorite songs, "In the Mood" by Glenn Miller Band. It took me back to my childhood so fast. I felt like I was a 7-year-old little girl in my stepdad's truck. This is going to sound super weird, but he would put this song on purposely and he would crank it up. He would grab my ankle and like make my leg dance in the car.
He was conducting.
I
He was
put all the
conducting
facts
with your
together and
leg.
realized you were a small child while he was doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, I was much smaller at the time.
How
But he would grab
young
my
were you?
6 or 7 years old. Very, very small. This was before my brother was born. So actually maybe 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
Because Keegan was born when I was 7. Anytime that song would come on, I would just like wait for it. And he would grab. So they started playing that song and I'm like, my leg kind of started dancing a little bit.
That's
I gotta
cute.
ask because
I love that.
talk about anachronisms. Do you remember being in a car seat when this happened?
No,
Right.
I was like 5 or 6.
Oh, you say that, but kids nowadays have
Kids
to
stay in car
kids
seats till
nowadays
they're
have to be in a
6 now.
car seat
Well,
till they're 10,
booster seats didn't exist.
like an
when I was
iteration of a
kid.
car seat.
Yep.
From
You are
age
correct,
yeah.
7, they have to be in a booster.
The kids' car seats that were around when I was little were probably more dangerous than just letting me sit in the back seat of the car.
Also, for context,
It's based on height here in Michigan.
And weight most often. It reminds me of Raising Hope, the car seat that they have for Hope, where it's like the old 1980s one and it's like just like a metal piece with like a
Yeah.
sling in it. And you just like take the seatbelt and like weave it through it.
I just want to show people what that looks like now. Hope's
Yeah,
car seat. Maybe in the
Forget
blog for
seatbelts
audio people.
because seatbelts didn't exist, back seats and stuff. Nope, you were just on your
They
own.
weren't standard.
Hold on.
Even in the 80s, people still owned cars from the 70s. You had bench seats. You didn't have, being in a time where bucket seats, you didn't have to call them bucket seats because nowadays they're all bucket seats technically. And so what we were driving was bench seats.
There was no
Right, in
rule about
We're
putting
getting
it.
so
1975.
off track. This is like such old people talk right now.
I know,
Can we just
but you know what?
No,
we need to
are.
do
don't.
this.
Okay,
We are
Cliff
old
Notes
people.
rule.
We'll talk.
And Francisco says,
No,
I don't mind the discord
Francisco,
about the
stop.
old stuff.
No.
Fallout
No,
isn't exactly a
Francisco,
young
stop.
person laughing my
Ah,
ass
Dave,
off.
just
Thank
tell you
you.
about car seats
Thanks,
back in
yes.
his old
Francisco.
day.
Back
Oh
in the
my
day, seatbelts were a luxury item until they were mandated in 1975
Do you know what
by
we
Ralph
didn't have in the
Nader, of all
70s?
people.
we did not have boxed deviled eggs.
Yeah.
Oh,
But you know
God.
what? Maybe you should have.
No.
I still don't think we have boxed
I don't
deviled
like
eggs.
deviled eggs. Am I
I
alone in this?
love
I
deviled
don't like
eggs.
them.
deviled eggs.
I don't
But
like.
I
High
don't
five,
I
Shannon.
love
want room.
eggs, but not deviled
Reverse
eggs.
high
I
five.
don't want room temperature,
There's a butt.
shelf stable deviled eggs.
I can handle a half of one deviled egg. and
I
then
See,
I'm
that's the
done.
thing. I don't think they're
Can't
real
do it.
deviled eggs, though. They're powdered whole
I don't know.
deviled
I don't
eggs. So
I
are
don't
they?
know.
Do they have chickens in the vault?
This is a preserved product from Yum Brands.
I have an answer to that, and I don't know if it's a spoiler for future episodes or not, because they do answer that
This
question.
goes along our conversation of Nuka-Cola from the last episode.
But I love Norm.
Me too.
Yes.
I love Norm,
Norm is the
so
best.
much.
It took me
Because
a
Norm
while.
is the Walking Dead fan, isn't it?
It took me a while to figure out who Norm is because Norm looked really familiar to me when I first watched it, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
He did
Where
to
do I
me
know
too.
him?
Oh, the actor. I'm like,
Okay.
it's Lucy's
Do
brother.
you know why? Do you know
You're an
why?
idiot.
Because I just got done rewatching all of The Middle, which is a great NBC show.
Oh, is he the little brother?
And nope, Norm was Sue's first boyfriend. He was a wrestler named Matt.
Oh,
What?
okay. I love the middle. That show
I
was
don't know what that-
hilarious.
I've seen a meme too. Apparently, it was on Hannah Montana.
That
I've never
too,
watched that show,
yes.
but someone
No.
put a screenshot up there.
We're
and I was
all
like,
too
oh,
old
hey.
for Hannah Montana.
Norm and Fork Eye need to team up for real.
I was so happy to see Steph looking pretty badass with that patch. Norm's interview was the best when they're like trying to
Yes.
punish him.
Yes,
And
it
he's
was
like,
amazing.
"You're in quite a predicament, huh? How are you going to punish somebody who just hates everything?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
snap."
The whole lax enthusiasm
Yeah.
thing is very relatable
Yeah.
for anyone who works like
Truly.
a job
Yeah,
that they're
very,
not like super
very much
passionate
so.
So
about.
basically,
It's
he
just-
is all of us.
Yes.
I
In
love
a collective
Norm so much.
sense, not individual
I
sense.
like my
Just
job
not
for
to
the
call
most
anybody
part,
out.
but yes, very millennial-esque mentality.
If you have more than one job under your belt, you probably lacked enthusiasm for your very first retail job or whatever it was that you had. I'm here, right? I'm doing it. What more do you want?
Okay, so that part was great, the little interview thing with Norm, but I really liked the scene with the whole group in the vault.
Oh, it's a compliment.
Yes.
It's the two co-leaders who are total morons.
Yes,
overseers.
overseer.
Like,
Thank you. Thank you.
And
then
then
they
they're like,
both
anything you
respond.
say can be said in front of everyone. And he's like,
We're going to die.
Water
I'm
pump
gonna
is
die in 2
bad.
months. Yeah, like what?
There's just a lot to pull apart in that whole scene. It's just really funny. I love
Yeah.
Norm's response. He's 100% dead accurate for exactly, well,
I can
maybe
teach
I'm
them
showing my true
Shakespeare.
colors here, but
Marlowe, when they're ready,
beginner's calculus. Like,
idiotic.
they're not
What?
ready for
Yeah.
heavy stuff like Shakespeare. Let's start off with something easy like Kant.
Like John
Or
Stuart
Mills.
Mill
I know, I was like,
Yeah.
and
Kant?
Immanuel
Really?
Kant.
Kant? What? Come on.
First of all, they're speaking my language. Second of all, for all the reasons you
The
might want
worst
to know if you
language.
read about those two authors or thinkers, philosophers. Bridget knows what I'm talking
Philosophy.
about. More old
I
people
do.
stuff.
Philosophy.
But also it illustrates how out of touch the vault dwellers are with what life is really
For
like and what's
sure.
important for
Mhm.
survival. Is all that other knowledge important for survival? No. Is it important? Probably. I mean, in a certain light, yes, those things are important to know. But for day to day, the way the wastelanders live their life, the vault dwellers are so wildly out of touch.
They need to touch grass, but there ain't any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait, it's powdered powdered glass.
It's powdered grass.
Can't say the word grass.
Spray grass?
Spray grass. It's like the
Yeah.
spray hair.
Not
Anyway.
only that, but they're generally unaffected by the water topic. That should be very alarming because it's so
Yes.
necessary. And they're just like,
Yeah.
that sucks.
I don't think they know what to do. They kind of just walk
You
away
know
when
what
they
my
hear the
thought
news.
was? This bothers me even now. Why don't you just cannibalize it from the other vault?
Because it's
the water
unsafe
chip,
to go
yeah.
to the other
That's
vault.
Good question.
It's like the easiest answer.
Or maybe, like we said in the
Yeah.
first episode, maybe it's caved in and it would take too much work. Would it take 2 months to dig?
All the water ports could all be connected, so Vault 33 could
Oh,
also be
yeah.
out of water. I'm sorry, 31.
It's the water chip that's broken.
Well, and
They
Norm
have
saw the
water.
blight too from the other vault, so maybe that could have contributed to their blight.
Yeah.
But
So-
was that true or was
Isn't
that
blight
a lie?
like a infection?
I thought the blight was from the raiders being there, not knowing how to grow stuff, and they just let everything die.
Yeah.
or didn't care about it.
The vault dwellers do have important knowledge because they know how to grow things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Despite
they do.
everything,
They focus
all
on
the challenges.
on Shakespeare, which is wonderful
Yeah.
if you are in a civilization. That's their point. They want to keep civilization alive.
Shakespeare is a luxury, not a
Yeah.
necessity.
When you're looking at basic survival, it's a frivolity to be talking about Shakespeare and Kant. You need to worry about food and water.
As history has
Yes.
proven, you still have to have art
Showers, right, Francisco?
Yeah,
to
you
contribute
do.
to a civilization.
This was before they heard about the water chip. This is why I think they walk away. They had given the Raiders so much credit. And when he was saying we have 2 months of water and not taking into account the Raiders,
Right.
I give up. I'm walking away. Don't know what to
Yeah.
do.
Well,
Not now.
The obvious answer is to kill them so that you can keep all of your water supply.
That's Rachel's obvious answer every single
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Gotta
that's what
kill them
Norm
before they
wants.
kill you.
Just kill them.
Anyway.
Well, Norm has a good
Just
point.
kill
What do
them.
you
Yeah.
do? How do you punish people who come in and murder your civilians? You can't punish them the same way you punish a vault dweller, because vault dwellers would never dream of doing that. That's so far beyond what they seem capable of
Yeah.
doing.
I do think it is more of a question than it is a foregone conclusion. What do you do with the Raiders in the prison? Do you kill them?
No, it's
Do
not a
you treat them?
question.
That's a matter
Well-
of opinion. Doesn't it need to be explored a little bit more?
This has to do with
Yeah.
ethics and your belief
Yeah.
system and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Moral relativism versus moral
What happens when a
absolutism.
spider comes into your home? If you put it back outside, it's just going to come back
Well, it's
in.
more of
So
a
you have to
rat.
kill it.
Well, there's other ways to deal with
I
that
don't
too.
like spiders.
So
Rats are
it depends on
adorable.
what we're talking about. If we're talking about in terms of our own world and I am to believe in the same beliefs that I hold here, then I would be inclined to say maybe they could be rehabilitated because that's the belief system that I carry here. Now, if I'm just looking at the facts, straight facts from this show alone,
She's falling
we're
in a
not-
trap.
shut up, Dave. We're not talking about anything like that. If I'm just looking at the straight facts, I don't hold any of my same beliefs, Christianity or any of that stuff. Then I'm just saying, yes, kill them because they came in there and they were going to do it to you.
So, isn't this something that we've talked about in all of our coverage of The Walking Dead? Because it's the same
Dude, so
conundrum
many times.
that,
And
that
I
people
always say the
have.
same thing.
If you
Kill
have
'em.
this person, what do you do with them?
That's the problem when we talk about post-apocalyptic or dystopian content, which is what we end up covering a lot of the time. So I'm reading that Going Home series, the survivalist series. There is a lot of conversation about what do you do with people for a punishment when you don't have the resources to jail them. And essentially that's what we're looking at here. They don't have enough water to jail these people to keep them alive. They're using up their own resources, feeding them. Let's say the power goes out tomorrow and we don't have any power worldwide for whatever reason. Where do I get my food? How do I protect my family? How do I take care of what I have? Am I going to jail someone who comes to steal my food? Or are they essentially trying to put me in a position where I might die and then I need to act in turn? So when we talk about these extremist conditions, I hold my beliefs and I believe those beliefs until the day that I die. But when we're talking extremist conditions, sometimes things have to be dealt with more severely because everything becomes more severe.
Right. And I do want to make it clear, I do agree with you. Conditions will test or strain your moral system or cause your moral system to adapt. However, in this episode, there's a very interesting play on the golden rule, as well as your past making you who you are, your traumatic past being a gift in your present. The do unto others rule, the golden rule that Lucy mentions to
It's
Cooper
meant to
Howard.
be positive only.
right.
It's meant to be in the positive.
Yeah.
Even in life, the axiom of the golden rule, do unto others as you would do unto yourself, essentially is what it is. That
No,
is
it's
insufficient.
not. It's based in Christianity. It's based in do unto others what Jesus did for you. That's what the golden rule actually is.
Just to chime in here, it's based on Hillel from the Talmud. Somebody asked him, explain the Bible standing on one foot in one sentence. And he says, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
It's also written in the New Testament, just, it's words of Jesus. So
But
anyway.
the Old Testament came first.
Anyway.
Just like, I love having these. This is the flavor of the show anyway. But the whole point being, though, is that some people say that the golden rule in some senses is insufficient, because if you use the golden rule as an axiom, do unto others as that you would do unto yourself, some people would say do better. It's kind of like be the change you want to see in the world. You might want to consider doing the thing that you would like to have done unto you in an ideal world, let's say, to make things better.
Just like Michael Jackson said.
When that scene first happened and they said, we're striving to be better than the people who have hurt us. I felt that because I was like, oh, that is something that you should strive to do. You shouldn't just return an eye for an eye all the time. But then you have this situation where you're just trying to feed these raiders and they're throwing food everywhere and cursing at you. And I went to interrogate them and he showed me his butthole.
That's his way of communicating. It's a sign of reaching out.
His beehole.
I mean, how do you deal with that? Like, they're just unmanageable in every sense. So what is the solution? And it's interesting, this thread of Christianity, because in Fallout 3, the entire driving force behind your main character's father's mission is Revelation 21:6. And I gave freely of the water of life. His goal is to give purified water for free to everyone in the wasteland. So there is a thread of that Christian ideal that the vault dwellers have, that they want to
engender,
proliferate into, into the wasteland and reintroduce, basically, because everyone has gone away from helping each other at all for any reason.
That's the thing. Even if you don't believe in it as a belief system, as a moral system, it is nice to think about being kind to others and being generous to others and giving freely and cheerfully.
It's nice to think.
Well, no, I think
no, but I'm just noting the exact way you phrased it. It's a nice
philosophy,
about.
And so that makes sense when we look at a dystopian future. You would want people around you to be kind, and you would hope that you would be able to do the same. And I say that kind of stuff all the time when we're talking about what kind of person would I be if I were to live through this. I would hope to be like this, but I'd probably be a coward and a raider and
or a scavenger,
or the worst of the worst, right? The worst of the worst. Often when people talk about Christianity and they talk about the Bible, they'll say, I long to be a Paul, but I am more like a Peter. Paul was a prolific writer in the Bible and wrote to many, many churches and planted many churches in the early Christian church. And Peter was one of the disciples who was a hothead, a lowly, uneducated man who was a fisherman, recruited by Jesus. And he often was first to speak without thought and quick to get himself into trouble. He does things like cut off a man's ear who comes to arrest Jesus. And Jesus like, yeah, like, don't do that. And he like grabs the ear and like puts it back on the guy. And he's like, you're healed now. Why would you do that? He has a conversation with his disciples and he tells them, I'm going to die. And these are the things that are going to happen. And you will deny me. And Peter's like, surely not I. It's the greatest of your disciples. And he's like, dude, you're going to do it 3 times in the span of a very short period of time. And that's what comes to pass.
Reality check. Yeah.
That's the expression, robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole thing?
Well, that's kind of part of it. But we hope to have those really nice, kind ideals in the future. But when resources are at play, things become more severe. But that's why when we look back on history, let's say 1700s, and we look at the way that people were punished for crimes, they seem really severe to us now. We're like, that's horrible. They would cut off their hand if they stole something. They would,
This is the Middle East.
put them in an Iron Maiden. They would put people in stocks. That's horrible. But the thing was, there weren't resources. People had to have swift, severe punishment so that they knew you cannot do anything else, because the next time you're probably going to be killed, because we don't have the resources to jail you and hold you for long periods of time in hopes that you are rehabilitated. Whether or not I believe that rehabilitation can happen is neither here nor there. The severity of it had to do with resources.
Well, that's really why I bring it up. Between the cuts of the raiders throwing stuff at poop, maybe food, who knows, at the windows, and then cutting between the actual dialogue of Roy and
the 2 overseer idiots.
It's not Roy. It's
wannabe overseers.
Anyway, yes, the wannabe overseers. But they accurately describe the conundrum. They're not foolish. They are seeing this for what it is, but they're trusting their, let's say, we'll say Christian values, or they're trusting their vault dweller values to apply to even this sort of scenario. And I don't think that's wrong, because listen, our brains are very one-dimensional when it comes to this sort of situation, which we learn from the Walking Dead universe typically, and it's very flat. But here we're working on 3 different dimensions and 3 different points of view of 2 organizations or 2 backgrounds that have a sort of morality or hierarchy and a degree of sheltering. The Brotherhood of Steel has a sort of morality and framework, which we see at play. The beatings that Maximus got in the beginning helped him in his scenario in this episode. So what was a systemic problem bullying ended up being the very thing that ended up saving him and allowed him to see an objective view of that morality transposed onto the wasteland. Same thing for the Vault Dwellers, which is actually a lot more obvious, right? But they're all a gift in a sense. Everybody's experience is a gift into maybe seeing the world for what it is and could be. I just find it a lot more fascinating to see it in a 3-dimensional view rather than just a flat 1-dimensional. This is how it is. You got to adapt or die. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe there's different forces at play here. And then you have the Enclave. That's a 4th dimension.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, a 4th dimension. It's just more fascinating than it normally would be in the Walking Dead universe, I think.
Yeah.
There's a depth to it that isn't there for The Walking Dead.
Right, it is, but it's a lot more archetypical, let's say.
It's almost always one group against the other.
Right.
It's
on the same plane.
Right. It's not like there's 3 or 4 groups in play. You've got the governor's group and the prison group. That's it. There's no other factor.
And not different environments. It's the same environment, essentially. So you have the vaults, you have the Brotherhood of Steel, and then you have the Enclave, which we've seen a peek of. It seems pretty almost pre-apocalypse.
There's no saving the Enclave. They're just evil.
We don't know yet.
No, they're evil.
We don't know. Technically, we kind of know, but
Dave
really
can change them. Maybe I can change them.
I don't know what to say.
We have to look at the Enclave the way you look at the Empire from Star Wars. There are plenty of people within that system who don't agree with it, but are trapped in it in some way. And even the target escaped the Enclave. Was it just because of the dog, or was it because he didn't agree with any of the things that the Enclave was doing?
I guess that depends on what's stuck in his head.
And you can apply that everywhere. Yeah. The character of that particular environment was trapped in that system. Maximus, Lucy. Mm-hmm. Even Cooper, his pre-apocalypse past was trapped in the system.
He's trapped in the system, yeah.
Again, it just bears repeating, it's not just the main protagonist. You got Norm, too. And he's adapting to the situation, and he was trapped in a system, and he's expressing it. So I'm liking seeing this on more than just the main protagonist. It's Thaddeus. Okay, gotta admit, for a guy who usually plays just the comic relief, he plays it pretty straight.
Yeah.
You kind of expect him to go at any given moment. It allows the actor who plays Maximus to be a little bit more wacky, the Beau in the scenario.
Now that you're more episodes in, do you still hate Maximus?
I didn't hate Maximus. I'm just not feeling the character. I can't even fully describe what it is. I'm just ugh.
I can't
put my finger on it. To answer your question, it hasn't really changed.
I was among Rachel's opinion in the first episode. I can put a finger on why, and it's something you said earlier. You said, I can change him. I can reform him. Maximus is me. Literally me.
Maximus is most player characters. That's how most people play through
games. I can change the world.
Is
I can be the hero.
But I can also be a villain.
Or am I bad? Am I going to play it straight and narrow, or I'm going to play it?
And it plays both sides.
And then when you find out who you are, I'm hopefully
ambivalent about him, because
that's the antithesis of everything you believe in, Rachel.
I don't know.
I need my good guys to be good, my bad guys to be bad.
I don't know where he fits. I don't know who he is. I don't know.
The worst scenario for Rachel.
Are you good? I'm malfunctioning.
I don't think Maximus knows if he's good or bad either. He wants to be the
I don't like that in
hero.
TV shows.
By the way, I really want a night suit because I really want to go around crushing heads.
Power armor?
I really want to just...
You want a power armor?
Yes.
There would be so many squished heads around here, you just don't know.
It's like the Kids in the Hall segment.
Many. What the hell do you guys find to talk about anyway?
I like to put my money into Texaco. Well, I like to put it in the Gulf. Well, I put my money in my mattress. Well, I put my money in my wallet.
You're boring me. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head. Hey, I just renamed your firm Merrill Lynch and the Flathead. I crush you.
Canadian.
I'm
crushing
your head. I'm crushing your head.
But you could tell that he really felt bad. That wasn't his goal to kill that guy. He was trying to save his own life. He didn't want to do it because he kind of freaked out afterwards.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's why I didn't like him at first, because that's the uncomfortable part in me. I'll speak for myself. In me, that I'd be the hero of my own story. Huh? Well, sure, why not? And then that awkward realization.
But when he first got Thaddeus and he was treating him like crap and making him do stuff.
Yeah, that's how I recognized it.
Immediately.
Yeah, but that's his bully. Would you not also take that opportunity?
Do unto others.
When he talked to Thaddeus a minute and he heard his own story or whatnot, he stopped being like that.
And to be
Yeah.
fair, this comes
Yeah,
from
he
a
did.
character who did not grow up in a vault, a golden rule society. He grew up above ground. And so to have a sense of right and wrong in the first place is kind of a big deal.
Well, he got that sense
Yeah.
of right and wrong from the knights because the knights saved him, and he thought that their vision of good, and now that he's in it, he doesn't know, are they good or are they not good? Because Titus, was a
He hung
jerk.
out with the knight, and the knight was a total dick.
How can a morality system produce
It
such
was
a
Michael
jerk?
Rappaport, and come on, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't
If
even
that
There was
is-
acting.
no
and Michael-
NYPD Blue.
That was the slight counterpoint that I was going to make, is that there is a level of being sheltered and a level of morality that Maximus had all this time. But to your point, what kind of system, what kind of morality? And that's the thing that woke me up, is that he made the choice that we hope we would make, in spite of seeing his errors with Thaddeus or seeing Thaddeus's point of view. He decided to be better. In effect, the scene with the Gulper, where all of that goes down with he and Thaddeus, and they actually win and they cheer each other on in the end. It's just a redo of the Yao Guai from the second episode, right? Whereas Knight Titus tells Squire Maximus, "Go on ahead." Thaddeus enthusiastically offers, and then Maximus says, "No,
He
no.
wasn't
I'll go
quite
in. I'll do
enthusiastic
it."
about it. He was like, allow me to go first.
Because he immediately was like, "Thank you, sir," and ran away at the first opportunity.
It gives you actually a little bit insight into Maximus. Maximus should have offered to go first.
His viewpoint of the knights is that they're heroes. A hero does not send his squire in ahead of him to get brutally murdered potentially because you just don't feel like dealing with it and you're old. You're like so old, Michael Rappaport. Anyway.
Hey, kudos to
Just
him.
saying,
He pulled
he
it
is-
off.
he
The
didn't,
fact that
though,
he sounded like an
'cause he
old,
died.
wheezy old man by the end of it was actually a treat. So it's fine.
So he's being the hero that he envisions that they're supposed to be by
Right.
doing that.
I think he's even going against the culture of the
Right.
Brotherhood too,
That's kinda what I
because
was getting to.
when they're talking to him, he's pretending to be Knight Titus. They're essentially
Right.
expendable. They're like, "Yeah, we'll send you another one," because we expect him to just get killed.
And
really
that's kind of
quickly,
my
so
point.
We'll just
Right?
send you
It's
a
like
new one.
we see knights and squires differently than they do. Their culture is way different. They don't have books. No, they do have books. They probably have books, but they don't have books on this, which is
All they
also a
have
form
is a
of
dingy
cultural
copy of the Little
relativism.
Prince.
But what would be the point of spending all the effort and time and resources to raise these squires just to send them in and have them killed immediately?
Well, you could argue the same for the military, so I'm just going to not say anything about this.
Wait, everybody, wait. 4-second pause for the sus.
In the military, there's a bunch of people. In this specific scenario, there's only one. It would make more sense to me if they sent 10 or 12 squires. Then, yeah.
Or at least give your squire a little bit of armor or something. Don't let him just get murdered
He
immediately.
can't carry
Yeah.
armor. He's got to carry that giant bag. The armor would weigh him down.
Right?
What is the point
What
of that
is
giant
the
bag?
What is
covered?
in that bag?
The
rad
guns, all
meter,
the supplies,
the big gun
Does
that
everything.
it
the
have to
squire
be
can
that
shoot?
big?
It does.
Huge.
They're just caddies.
Doesn't it look like a caddy bag?
It does.
It
That's
does.
crazy.
Yeah.
With the gun sticking out the end.
Put some
and
wheels on that
everything.
baby.
See,
Yeah.
You have robots.
that would require ingenuity.
You're telling me you couldn't have a robot bag?
Why don't you have a robot squire?
Yeah.
Which goes to my first point about the plumbing
Yeah.
and the toy. It's
Fair.
it's like for all the technology that they want to hoard away to protect humanity from themselves, they just lack. Because that's not the point. Their point is not about betterment. They're about betterment of society, maybe. But their whole thing is not about betterment of humanity, just improving it. They're like, no, let's just stem the bleed, which goes to the whole middle ground point. Francisco says the water chip, much like what makes the T60 function, the older model, without them, they're going to be eating each other in 3 months. Ah, ha, 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 ha. He means the shelter. He doesn't hate Maximus, just hate how they made him a savant perk player, which, Karina, you want to explain that really quick?
Off the top of my head, I don't exactly know what savant is.
Or LCK?
LCK.
Is that luck?
Oh, okay.
Luck? Yeah, that's luck.
Oh, my God,
okay,
yeah.
So luck, I can definitely say. If you put a ton of points into luck, you'll miraculously not get hit by things or score critical hits on stuff for wildly aiming, in the wrong direction. You still get a critical hit or something, and all kinds of things will go right for you, even though they shouldn't be. Savant, it's something along the lines of you are min-maxing sort of, I think, from what I recall. I can't off the top of my head know it, and my phone is way across the room. So
is it kind of like a jack of all trades
but
sort of situation where you're kind of equally leveled?
I almost feel like it's supposed to be like idiot savant. Like you're supposed to be a low intelligence character, but you're still really good at like one thing. Because I think that's how they phrase
like
it in
anime.
the game. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Anyway. Like,
and he says the caddy bag looks like something out of Monty Python with that big bag, essentially. Which it's comically huge, comically huge.
And the bag is almost like a joke about how you can carry around so much stuff in the game and you never carry around a bag. And like, this is sort of the solution. Like, yeah, you would need a bag that big to carry around
the bag of holding
6 or 7 kinds of rifles and 12 melee weapons
Syringer,
and a minigun all at once. Yeah, like all
water
all
and
of
rations,
your junk and everything else. Yes, you would need like a wagon behind you, and they don't have that. Yeah, your Radaway, your Radex.
What is the stuff that the ghoul was hitting in that? Is that like a anti-radiation thing, or is that for breathing?
Should we know about this, or will we know about this later?
I want to say in the next episode they might refer to it by name. I have to rewatch it and see, because I'm still curious what that is. Because at least in the games that I'm aware of, there's nothing that ghouls take specifically.
Isn't
to, like,
that the same thing that the Raider took in the first episode when he was about to attack Gate Guy?
No, okay. There's a lot of different drugs that you can take in Fallout that give you different bonuses and things like that.
Just
so
like
the
in the
one
real
that the
world.
Raider took was called yes, bonuses and detriments.
I was going to say, they don't really give you bonuses.
Mostly bonuses.
Well, if you can consider it a bonus. So what he took was Jet, which essentially slows time around you and gives you more action points to do specifically in the game. That's what it does. It's, I guess, like speed or something like that.
Where you go fast, but the rest of the time slows down.
Yeah,
right,
and you're like, yeah, exactly. You're going so fast. And then it gives you bonuses. There are detriments. You can get addicted to drugs in the game, and they'll give you withdrawal minuses. So if you get addicted to something, you'll continually take minuses whenever you don't have that.
Jeez.
Which makes me feel like what the ghoul is taking, the reason he gets so angry when Lucy breaks all of them trying to defend herself from the gulper, is because he has an addiction, and when he doesn't get that thing, he takes minuses, or he suffers from not having it, which is why he immediately does this little calculation in his head, like, okay, it takes a long time for a gulper to digest some things, you got time. And he grabs her up and he's like, we're going to do something else real quick. And he doesn't say what it is, but like, so he immediately is like, I got to fix this problem right now. The head problem can wait.
Which shows a focus, by the way. One of the things that I promptly notice about, because we're always trying to determine with Cooper Howard is his motivation. What makes somebody persist? I think we got a little bit of an answer to that in this episode by way of the past scenes, but also by way of what I mentioned before was the Ink Spots song, May We Meet Again?
Is it possible that his daughter is
we'll
also
meet
a
again.
ghoul and like she's hidden somewhere and he's trying to get back to her or something like that? I'm looking at you, Karina, as I'm asking this.
I'm trying
honestly,
not to emote.
I mean, look, that's the best case scenario, but I don't know. What I'm also thinking is the one thing that I thought of, because the song We'll Meet Again by the Ink Spots was originally written for the troops leaving for World War II. It ends up being more about the troops that never came home. What the whole song is about seeing a better world after World of War or after the conflict is over, is that hopefully all of this will have meant something. And so when I take the song, apply to Cooper Howard and apply to some of the scenes that we've been seeing with him in the past, is that I feel like what he's trying to do so far, and I'm taking a leap, is that he wants to be there to see that better future. He persists for as long as it takes to see that better future to come to fruition, because I feel like having been drafted to do the Vault Tech Fallout Shelter ads, which you get a glimpse of later on in the end credit scene, you can see that they papered over his billboard with the Vault Boy version of his thumbs up, etc. That he was the original thumbs up dude.
To talk about this.
Which, and maybe as a result, no, probably definitely as a result of him being blackballed as a pinko, they papered over with the caricature rather than him himself. That he was promised as a result of making Vault Tech's Fallout Shelter dream come true, that he was promised something to be part of that brighter future
in the Vault Tech.
Yeah, a spot in the vaults too, maybe. But there's some other things that suggest that I learned later on, which something about Vault 12, and they were promised a better future in Vault 12 in the games. I know some things too. Their vault door was left open as the bombs dropped, and they were irradiated just to see what would happen to them.
Yeah, that's the thing about Vault-Tec is they haven't really delved into it a lot, but you're starting to see some of those hints that it has a darker side, and Lucy has no clue that that exists. Game-wise, the vaults are all sinister in some way. Very few of them actually function as
they intended
or as advertised. Yeah.
Results may vary.
They function as purposed, but not, they're not functioning as advertised, I would
There's
say.
a big disclaimer before everybody goes in.
Yeah. Doing exactly what they're meant to do, just not what they were told they were going to do.
Essentially. But going back to the point that I was thinking of with Cooper Howard is I think he exists for as long as he has to see that better. Or at least maybe that was the genesis of why he wanted to persist. But after you live for so long, do you really think you're going to see the future? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
When the recap comes in, it calls back to previous episodes and the target, which I can never remember his name, the doctor that escaped the Enclave.
Oh, Dr. Wilzig? Siggy Wilzig, by the way. Say that 5 million times fast.
I like that name. Yeah, he says to Lucy, if you're going to survive out here, you're going to have to adapt. But the question is, are you still going to want the same things? And I think that can apply to Cooper's character arc as well. Like, does he still want the same things? I think it's clear that at some point, what he wanted when you see him in this flashback is different than what he wanted even before the bombs fell. And then now, what does he want now that he's lived 200 years? What are the motivations and how have they changed?
Right. I was thinking exactly that. As they went through the recap of the last 2 episodes, that's exactly what because they flashed to him too. What you could be, Lucy, the ghoul. But on this very topic, something in Norman's character that I saw, I feel like we may never get answers to why Wilzig knew so much about Lucy McLean. For some reason, he knows Lucy McLean. I alluded to some sort of they're monitoring the vaults, and that's why they have Pip Boys, and they're still monitoring to see the Vault-Tec experiment lives on in the Enclave, let's say, whatever. But when I saw Norman, I saw a little of him, Norman, in Wilzig, in a sense, or vice versa, that Norman started speaking a lot like Wilzig in a way. And I had this really weird thought that what if Wilzig was just Norman that traveled back in time? Because the things he says is almost to sow chaos. Or maybe I'm confusing Norman with Ben Linus from Lost. Not person of interest, Finch from Person.
I mean, because the
things Norman says is to sow chaos. So I don't know. He's just very clever. He doesn't say things to piss people off. He knows exactly what to say to get him out of certain situations in a way that benefits him, Ben Linus, all over again. So the only thing he seems to be good at is playing the game Fallout, which I'm highly enjoying. So I don't know. I just figured I'd draw a line between those 2 characters because, again, I don't know if we're ever going to find out how Wilzig knows so much, but that's the only explanation I have.
When you bring up time travel, you're taking me out of the whole thing. Fine. I can't even.
It's the same argument that we had.
It is the same show creators as Westworld because you know how they like to mess with timelines.
Oops.
We know that Norm and Wilzig are existing at the same time because Lucy is connected between the 2 of them. So it's not like 2 different timelines. I know, that's why I said time travel. Like I can't with time travel. Just
I know.
Shut up.
You can exist in the same timeline as yourself as long as you don't run into yourself. And since one is in the vault and one is outside, I don't think they would run into
Not
each
according
other.
to Timeless, which was a short-lived show, again, canceled.
I can't.
Bridget.
Why does the axolotl have fingers in its mouth? That was disgusting.
Because why not?
That was gross.
Why not?
That was incredible.
It was really gross.
There
That's
might
why
be
it's
an
called a
answer for that
gulper.
later.
Because it can't chew. It just pulls in the prey and digests slowly.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with
that. Is it like the Sarlacc pit?
The disgusting lake that it lives in, when it eats people, it just becomes the thing instead of eating the people.
The person's
I love the way you explained that.
hands become incorporated into its mouth.
Yeah, He's like, I'll eat all of you, but not your fingers. Your fingers have to hang out right here. So like he eats the rest of the person, but then the fingers just stay right there in the mouth.
So when Lucy was walking down to
Bridget's
the
face
water
right now for the audio podcast,
and the deer was there, I 100% expected that deer to flip out with some big teeth and like attack her or something.
same here.
That deer should have had 2 heads.
Like the
I'm just
oxen in the
saying.
last
It should have
episode,
had-
by the way. We didn't mention that.
Because all of the deer that you see are called rad stags and rad does, and they have 2 heads. So where was the second head? I'm upset.
Maybe it lost it.
But then it should have had
The
a bloody
last normal
stump.
Maybe
deer
it
in
starts
existence, and then
normal
it got
and
eaten
then as
by
it
Roper.
grows, it develops another head
Oh,
because it was just a
that's
baby.
possible.
Maybe every season that head sheds off, and then next season there'll be 2 heads.
You know what?
I like it.
One of the heads always looks like it's about dead.
It's a
so,
spare
like,
head.
That's
Spare
possibility.
head. Rachel, I think you're onto something. No, but actually, I think you answered your own question, Karina. It's a foil for Lucy, the last whole doe, and she's looking at her rad meter. And I'm thinking of you the entire time she looks at her rad meter because of our last conversation.
Yep.
How radiation will affect a player. And then the play on the suits and Cooper Howard Andrews. Cooper Howard says to the folks, the Vault-Tec folks in the photo shoot, they go, "You're saying this blocks radiation?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure."
I don't know why they said it like it doesn't, because it does. Like your vault suit does block radiation.
When he asked that question, they side glanced at her, and then she did a little nod, and then they were like, yeah. So
So she's not part of craft
Right.
services. Oh.
that's what I saw in that.
By the
scene.
way, lavender
Like, his
taffy sounds
wife
absolutely
is
disgusting.
behind some stuff.
That's almost up
I'd
there
have
with shelf life
Probably
deviled eggs.
lavender taffy.
Box deviled
That
eggs.
sounds delicious.
See, I'm with Rachel on this one. Maybe once.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know.
is
I'd have to try it.
Maybe once.
diabolical.
I'd
No.
have to try it.
Hibiscus, maybe, but not lavender.
That sounds good.
Lavender.
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus is
It's
good.
apparently an old lady flavor.
How about honeysuckle?
A slight sweet flavor
Yeah.
for your taffy. Your saltwater taffy. I don't know why I'm saying it like this. But go to Coney Island for your saltwater taffy.
Because you're old and a grandma. You always have taffy for your grandchildren.
up for your hibiscus taffy. It was funny, that conversation during the photo shoot, and noting that they looked at
There was so
Cooper
much
Howard's wife,
unsaid in that scene.
which is delicious.
That whole ending scene was loaded with subtext.
That's what we call a pregnant pause.
His daughter was there, so they're like, hey, don't forget he has a daughter, guys. And at first, when he was looking at the outfit, I thought it was going to be like her little matching outfit, because he's like, let's go see if it fits. And then he put on the
So
The thing.
here's my
Vault-Tec,
theory
yeah.
now is
The vault
that
suit, yeah.
mom and daughter are in a vault somewhere and he's got to find them. And they didn't let him in for some reason.
Because of the pinko thing.
I don't know, maybe.
What are the chances Moldaver could be his daughter? Karina?
She'd be 200 and something years old and she doesn't look really irradiated.
We don't know what kind of
Mm.
tech and life prolonging stuff is out there.
I'm enjoying the thought. Well, to all of your points, Francisco says, Vault-Tec is more than meets the eyes, and we'll find out the extent of their chaotic behavior for all the years that have passed. I feel like the show still has a lot of budget problems with the animals in the green that they should fix next season, maybe. Maybe this is to your point, Karina, I think, from the last episode, because there's an awful lot of green. Oh my God. But again, I'll bring this up again, to Overseer McLean's point, Hank, he does say that the radiation is finally at levels possibly that could inhabit life and could carry out their mission in the next generation, which is about 20, 30 years. So I can buy it. I can accept it.
It does hurt my heart a little bit, because to see how they are together, Cooper and his wife, and then knowing from the first episode that they get divorced at some point, it's like, oh,
yeah.
why?
Yeah, I didn't remember
like
that
it.
for this watch. Okay.
They make the
Interesting.
alimony.
Because he's a
Yeah.
long hair, hippie type, pinko. Sorry, that's a song.
And wait, so maybe they got divorced just to protect her, or at least like if one of them was going to go down, at least one of them would take the fall for the pinko stuff, or whatever the circumstances that lead to him being called a pinko, not necessarily him being a pinko, because it doesn't sound like he's one. He even says it in this episode, you're doing God's work. He's heard what happened to the writer, Cadillac Bill, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah, like Bill, yeah.
He heard that. And he's thinking to himself, I better say something godlike, just to go with conservative values, just patriotic to the Vault-Tec. He's saying, you're doing God's work, thanking you for your service, Vault-Tec, because you're great. And so he's just trying to seal the deal with this God save the United States.
The United States.
Oh, there you go.
Then suddenly Dave started singing, I'm proud to be an American.
To be an American. Well, at least I know. With his teeth. He said, I'm proud to be American.
With his teeth.
Oh my gosh, David, that reminds me of the night out at Bar 9.
Should we remind them what I did?
No, we don't have time for all that. Bridget's already trying to fall asleep. Right. It was just funny, and I'm glad now you're thinking.
Play the song. That's all.
Good.
Yeah, now I'm glad you're thinking about it.
I sent the money and requested a song, and I never got it. So then I left. It's fine.
Was it Ride a Horse and Save a Cowboy?
I wish.
Wait, hold on. What is it? Is that the song?
It was something from Hedwig and the Angry Inch for some reason.
Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy.
Because I'd had a lot of drinks, and then at that point, you're like, this niche song, nobody will know. That's what I want to hear for some reason.
That
Bridget's
would
like,
sound
I'm
cool
gonna
with
stump
pianos,
them. I'm gonna send them a song that they don't know. That would be that would be my drunk thought process.
Just to go back to the Gulper for a minute. First of all, seeing Maximus and Thaddeus defeat the Gulper in a sense, basically, was great. But if you missed it, do you remember the thing that Lord Titus at the time said about toasters? One of the contents in the Gulper's stomach was a toaster.
Oh, I didn't see the toaster. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
You know what a toaster does?
I was going to point out that the Gulper pukes up a lot of very common junk items like a toaster, a plastic pink flamingo, and many cans.
That's what I was trying to figure out what that pink thing was.
A yard ornament.
Barbell, dumbbells.
And a boot, right? Because it's Lucy's boot.
Establishing that Maximus thinks that Lucy might have been devoured by the Gulper.
Shouldn't the deer have been popped out too?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's my thing is like, didn't he eat it?
Well, that was
Where
a different
is
Gulper.
It was organic material, so maybe it dissolved or something.
But then why wasn't the head dissolved? Because
maybe the hoof was somewhere in the mouth among the fingers and they missed it.
It got absorbed. Maybe.
It's baloney that Maximus recognizes Lucy's boot. Come on. He knows it's her boot.
Well, she had a moment where she was feeding
He's not staring at her shoes.
By a water with her gigantic Disney princess eyes. And so she's a princess.
He didn't see that.
And so he saw the shoe and was like,
gotta find the Cinderella.
Yeah. He's a knight. She's a princess. It's a modern day, futuristic Disney story. It's very twisted.
She does have comically large eyeballs.
Girl's got big eyes.
And I love it.
Look at Maximus's his teethers.
Yeah, he does have a nice smile when he's in the thing and it's just his face and he does just like the little half smile.
That goofy smile. It's just such a goofy smile.
His teeth are like glowing from under his lips. Yeah.
I gotta admit.
Why does the face thing around the mask on him work so well, but it felt so weird in Fear the Walking Dead when they had the masks on? What is the difference?
Were you talking about Sherry and
Sherry and Dwight? Remember how weird it felt when they had their masks on?
I felt claustrophobic during those shots. I felt like I couldn't breathe.
On Fear?
On Fear,
well, that was the point, right? Because it's radiation all around you.
Well, I guess maybe
for
they
protection.
did it on purpose.
Yeah, that was definitely purposeful. But you're saying that Maximus doesn't feel as claustrophobic? Or it feels okay?
Seeing his face in that thing doesn't feel weird like it did in watching them talk in Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know the difference. I don't know why it doesn't feel as odd and off-putting as it did in that show.
Probably a job well done on both fronts, I guess, because they don't want you to feel, well, okay, let's take Maximus's point of view. Maximus, his whole thing, the reason for the power armor as it pertains to his character is that, the outside world can't get me now. You're supposed to feel like he's protected from the world, that this is the thing that's going to protect me from all the bad things. It's a job well done on that front.
If you look at Maximus's face, it's surrounded, like there are lights being cast on his face. His heads-up display, they're orange or like a yellow-orange color. That is the color that appears on screen. So normally your heads-up display in the game will be green because the Pip-Boy displays in green. And then when you get into Power Armor, everything changes to like that yellow-orange color. So they added that in from the game, and I thought that was kind of a cool touch. And I just want to, as a personal note, say that I hate the orange color.
I like the green.
So I barely ever use... I really don't like it. I always avoid Power Armor for that reason because I hate it.
Sounds a very artistic take from an artist.
I liked that you could change your heads-up display color in New Vegas, so you could make it whatever you want, because it is orange in New Vegas by default, and that's an odd change, and I hated it, so I would switch it back to green because it's just more soothing to me.
You know what? There is a
preference.
science behind that. Just to recall some things that I learned about smartphones. So there are apps on the phones that will take away red, because both intense bursts of red and blue, like everybody knows about blue light, but not everybody knows about red light. Red light actually makes you feel anxious and will make it hard for you to fall asleep as well.
Is
So
my
that's
phone just
color
constantly
science.
shooting red light at me? Because my anxiety is through the roof.
There's an app for that.
It must
And
be.
to your point,
Could
what
be.
happens when you reduce blue and red? You get more green, luminance.
Yes.
Green is a luminance channel.
Yes.
So it explains why if you do that, but it looks very wonky, you might feel a little bit more relaxed. So there you go. Little color science for you people. Technician knowledge comes useful.
No, I like that, because in color theory, like psychological theory, like a lot of the time we don't really like orange because it's often linked with low economy, cheap, the signal that
That's
like
right.
that color sends to your brain when you see it. And so it's often associated with like fast food restaurants uses a lot of orange, red and yellow as well, because those help to stimulate appetite.
Appetite and now.
Mhm.
Clearance stickers are always red.
And
Right?
links us back
Yeah.
to Better
Yeah.
Call Saul, a factoid that Sharon D had brought up originally. I think it was Sharon D, right? In the Breaking Bad universe, orange is usually associated with sneaky or evil things are afoot.
I've lived 3 lifetimes since then, Dave.
Since our coverage of Better Call Saul's last final season.
3 lifetimes.
All right, well, fine. I had thought of Karina when the ghoul puts a noose around her neck, because basically the ghoul switches companions. Instead of the dog,
Yeah.
he
Yep,
chooses
he left dog
Avalti
meat,
as his
yeah.
companion character. He's alternating his companion character right now.
By force.
Yeah.
You're coming with me.
He
whether
doesn't
you like it or
have
not.
to do it, but that's his brand.
No.
So,
Yeah.
It was very sad to see for licking the head.
oh yeah,
I
that's
know.
true. That's true.
You know, it reminded me of Rufus licking Walter.
From Fear of the Walking
Walter
Dead.
with the Tabasco beans. He was licking his face. Eating the
Walter's
tobacco
head, you
beans.
mean, right?
Ugh.
Walter's decapitated
Was that
head.
the twins' name?
Well, it was
Walter?
before.
No, Walter.
No, Walter was the guy.
one eating the beans
Walter
This is
was
from
at the.
Fear the Walking Dead season 6, episode 1.
Yep.
in the sub jumpsuit.
He was the one that Emil cut his
From
head off
the
in
USS
the very
Pennsylvania.
beginning. It was the opening scene of episode 1.
Emil sits him down, gives him beans.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You know what the secret is, right?" He said, "I'm not telling."
No, his twin was good old
That's
Josie.
how I was like, I don't remember any Walter.
Josiah. Yeah. Anyway.
Josie.
All right. Okay. Oh, one thing we did see, and answers a question that we had earlier in some earlier episodes, was, well, it seems as though there's a cluster of vaults. We find out from this episode that this was a planned cluster of 3 vaults, 31, 32, and 33 only. So it's not like as though there's 0 through 33 and higher. It's just
That's
those
why
3
they're
vaults.
even super inbred, because
Mhm.
it's all between 3 vaults.
Well, imagine if there was just one.
Exactly. 3 vaults of better than 1.
200 years, that's 5 generations, give or take.
Depending on how many residents you have.
8 generations have been inbred in the same, well, actually 9, say almost 10, have been inbred between the same 3 groups of people for 200 years.
These people are tightly taking track. I feel like they're doing the best they can. They're keeping track of genetic testing and lineage and stuff like that.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying there's no way you could avoid it after that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly.
We don't know how many people there are in there to begin with.
Yeah, 220 years isn't a terribly long time to screw that up.
4 to 5 generations per 100 years. That'd be 9,
Yeah.
10,
Oh, yeah.
11 generations, something like that.
So between 3 vaults, I think that's okay.
I would say there's, 50 people in the vault, maybe, in each one?
Well, in Fallout Shelter, my vault holds 200, so.
That's a limit, at least in that game. You can have up to 200. I don't recall seeing how many minimum or maximum that you can have in other games. So it could be variable.
In addition to that, I have to assume they have a child limit policy too. A maximum of 2. Lucy and Norm.
Oh,
there can't be more
fair,
than 2.
yeah.
Replace
Yeah, it
basically
seems-
replace your parents. situation at max.
Population growth doesn't
Well,
get
and
out
I'm
of
just
hand.
saying,
Right.
it's legal in the
Yeah.
state of North Carolina to marry your first cousin. So,
Yeah.
Pause for 4 seconds.
Please take that into account because I live in North Carolina. I know what it's done.
It's fine. It's fine here.
You live in the city.
Especially in Kaiser.
Live out here in the country where there's
I'd
only
prefer
200
to,
people in
honestly.
a mile.
I'd prefer to. I would strongly prefer to.
No, you would.
This actually brings me to how many of you are shipping Norm and Stephanie? Because I
Ew, no.
wholeheartedly am. And I'll tell you
No,
why.
they are not as a romantic duo, but as
a
like
romantic duo.
No.
they are a buddy cop show I would watch.
I think it's more of a buddy thing.
I
They're
don't
of a
like
like
it.
They would have a cool
Oh.
shipper name, Normany. Yeah, that would be cool.
Or Stephanorm.
That's nice.
Or Stephan Norman.
No,
Or
it's just Steph
Storm. It'd be Storm.
Storm and Stephanie Norman.
Storm. I like that.
Okay, well, I'm shipping it hardcore because
You ship everyone.
no, I don't
She is
ship
missing
anyone,
an
really.
eye, so I guess that
Dave
kind of
writes
puts them on the same
fanfic
plane.
about this.
I say this only really because the way she defenestrates her now slain husband previously,
Wait, the
it
way
almost
she
seemed like a
what,
marriage
Dave?
of defenestrates.
Do you know what defenestrate
when you-
means? It means to throw somebody out of a window.
Yeah, essentially.
She didn't throw her
No?
husband out of a window.
She did. In metaphor.
She threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
She threw him under the bus.
Under the bus.
Well, that too.
She demotivated
If you want to
him.
look at it like that. But they didn't know. They didn't never seen buses before.
Demotivated.
Anyway, my whole
They've
point
never
being,
seen a window before.
Demotivated. What is happening?
Well, I mean, no, they have windows in the prison. Anyway, my point being is that she humiliated her husband in front of everybody, essentially.
Emasculated?
Previously, yeah, yes, emasculated.
Emasculated
him.
would be the
Let's
correct
just say
word.
fine.
Anyway,
Well,
okay.
I was trying to use a fancy word, and okay, fine. Anyway,
Womansplain into it, Bridget.
yeah, femsplain it to me. Femsplain it. Oh yeah, give it to me, mama.
Emasculated? That must
Anyway.
be how you feel.
Oh.
Whoa!
Have you met me?
Just shut up. Shut up.
My whole point
We've all
being
met Evelyn.
is that considering that marriages here are more out of let's not marry our cousins, and it's kind of a crapshoot, which they illustrate in the first episode, to see two people that are kind of on the same page and they kind of giving each other the eyes, and I like it. Point taken. We're talking about two heads, one eye. It's the whole
I
thing.
didn't see any romantic eyes being given.
Well, there
I
was
saw
only
an
one,
eye for
so it's hard to see.
vengeance.
Stephanie was like, "Yeah, let's kill
I'm
him."
just saying.
And Norm's like, "Let's kill
I saw
him."
collusion.
Yeah,
well,
that's what I
yeah.
saw.
Collusion.
I saw the evil eye.
You know, romance can breed in vengeance
A
situations.
girl's
What a
got
girl
needs and
wants,
pickings
what
are
a
slim,
girl
so
needs.
maybe.
Whatever. No, I don't know the words of this song.
Do you think he will
But she's
lack
already-
enthusiasm?
Pregnant.
Not at all.
That'd be the only job he ever liked.
Gross.
You know, when you like what you do, it's when you have a
never
job
work
you
a day
like,
in your
it's
life.
not like work. I don't know
Wow.
what the expression is anymore.
Wow.
I'm shipping Norm with the Raider chick that threw the food at him. She gave him the eye.
Oh, that's the hate bang.
Wow.
That's the hate
I
bang.
can't get over
That's a
what
hate
Dave
bang.
just
She's
said.
got options.
We're gonna blow right
She
past
gave
that.
him the brown eye.
No, that's what they gave Jonas.
Hold on a second. I like what Francisco says. I can't wait to. First of all, he says, "I can't wait to see the ghouls with radiation," and they are orange, essentially. And he says, "You guys are so damn chaotic. I'm trying not to laugh at 3 a.m. here. Why not? Why can't you laugh? Explain your situation to us. Are you living in a vault, Francisco? Are you trying not to wake your cousin up?"
Oh,
Why
Dave.
is that stupid? That's stupid.
hours.
I'm just saying.
Dave. He doesn't live in North Carolina.
I'm trying to give Francisco clearly
This is
the
what I'm
time zone
talking
difference. Yo, trying to give him his dollar's worth. Anyway.
If inbreeding led to this sense of wit that I have, maybe it's not all bad. I'm just kidding. I'm
Bring
just
on the
kidding. I'm
cousins.
just kidding. My family's from a different country. I'm just kidding.
I wanted to mention
Oh
something
my
that we
gosh.
completely glossed over. In the beginning, the sheriff character that Cooper Howard is playing, he says the equivalent of, and he says it in the worst way possible. He says, feo, fuerte y formal, which comes out from his teeth. Something weird I can't repeat because it's hard. It's hard to repeat it wrong, which is something that John Wayne has always wanted to have on his gravestone. For the first 20 years after John Wayne, the actor, his tombstone was actually unmarked. It was an unmarked grave.
Were there conspiracy theories about that one too? Like about Elvis?
No, his family was just afraid of looters and
remember
vandals.
Elvis's middle name
snatchers.
is spelled wrong on his grave, so everyone's always said that Elvis really isn't dead. Or people like John Wayne's not really dead because he doesn't have a grave.
Oh no, it's not that at all.
Okay.
Because there was a trend, and this had happened around that time in the 70s, I think it was. Wait, he died in 79. There was a trend of people looting graves and stealing pieces of tombstones.
I just
from
listened
celebrities.
to a podcast about this, and Charlie Chaplin's body was stolen and hidden.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, yes.
Oh,
They
my.
stole his body,
For years.
and his wife had to like pay a ransom to get it back. And then when they reburied him, she put a concrete pad over his grave so he couldn't be taken again. But his body was gone
It
for
established
years.
a trend, by the
Yeah.
way.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't think the family didn't want to have to do that, so it was largely unmarked. No, what is it? The mark? What is that called when you put
Epitaph.
Thank you. So there was no
Epitaph,
epitaph.
yeah.
There wasn't even the name John Wayne, or actually his real name is something else. I think
Marion
actually, but
Marsh-
anyway,
Marion
there was
Morrison.
nothing on his gravestone.
Marshall Mathers.
Marshall Mathers.
That's from
Slim Shady.
No. Whatever.
It's
Anyway,
Marion Morrison is his real name.
either way, that's the saying that he wanted to put on his tombstone: "Feo, fuerte y formal," which means exactly what Walton Goggins says in that
Ugly,
scene.
strong and brave, or
And
whatever it
dignified.
is.
Ugly?
Yeah, Feo is ugly.
Yeah.
I know, but like,
Yeah.
ugly? Why
Yeah,
can't-
yeah. I think that's the way John Wayne saw himself. Unconventional, yet at the same time dignified and strong. Which, if you look at his history, is quite accurate. He believed in what he believed. It was not conventional. He didn't adhere to any single form of thought. And this is just a huge, kind of like a tribute to John Wayne in a sense, because it led me to this article from a WordPress blog that was published in 2021.
Wow.
Based on this very
what a
thing.
credible source. this WordPress blog. I found it on Tumblr.
Hold on a second. That's like saying Squawking Dead. What an authority on all things Walking Dead. Shut your face, Bridget. Don't mock this. You know what? Read the article. It'll be in the blog. The Feo Fuerte y Formal is just shorthand. This is what ended up being on his tombstone eventually. And it's a quote from a Playboy article. This is very relevant for this show, though. And this is what led me to believe about Cooper Howard and why he wants to persist. Tomorrow is the most important thing in life. Comes into us at midnight very clean. It's perfect when it arrives and puts itself in our hands. It hopes we've learned something from yesterday. The full quote, so there's an addendum to that. That's what's on his tombstone. The rest of it is, as a country, our yesterdays tell us that we have to win not only at war, but at peace. So far, we haven't done that. And you have to consider the fact this man, what I'm saying about perhaps Cooper Howard, but also John Wayne, he was a very unconventional character. He wanted to join the war effort. He was deferred 2 times because what the country really wanted him for was propaganda. And we still do this today with the Avengers. The government has some say or wants to include some things to have a little bit more Americanism and spirit and people wanting to believe in America a little bit more. So this is something that we've done for 100 years, essentially.
You know they change that stuff for other countries, right?
Yes, but as far as
So
how
not
it
really,
appears in
but
America,
okay.
right? I know you're going to touch China and all that. But anyway, they still do that. And so they actually deferred his enlistment twice in order to get him to make more movies that were pro-America. But he was pro-McCarthy. He was like hipster McCarthy. He was for McCarthyism before McCarthyism became a thing. He was very anti-communist, but he believed in a lot of things. He wanted people to see the ideals of America at peacetime just as much as in wartime, and was not pro-war, really. He wanted to see a brighter tomorrow.
Did you know that John Wayne turned down Bleeding Gunsmoke because he didn't want to be typecast as a cowboy?
Oh, poor John
Yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah, and that was part of his frustration after being
That
held
sucks.
back too,
Also,
and then finally getting to
how
a fight.
dare they not put what he wanted on his actual tombstone? Rude.
Well, his family was just worried about
Rude.
looters and vandals and stuff
That's
like
his
that.
dying wish.
But 20 years later, he
You
got his
could
wish.
see Cooper Howard on one of the walls of the buildings in the lake that says there's a new sheriff in town. You couldn't see like his face or anything, but you could see the edge of his body and wearing that outfit.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Also, did you know that Leslie Uggams was playing Betty, the head lady
Yeah.
in the vault? That's Leslie Uggams, the dancer,
Yeah.
singer, actress from the 60s and 70s. I happened to catch her name in the credits, and I was like, where? What? Leslie Uggams is in this?
Third overseer, Betsy, Betty, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's
Betty.
interesting because I feel like they cast her because Nichelle Nichols had passed. Because I often see those two, and I'm like, oh, wait, is that Nichelle? She passed, though, a few years ago.
Yeah.
She has this striking resemblance to Nichelle Nichols, who was Uhura on the original Star Trek. Are you going to say something, Rachel?
okay.
No, I know her from something else. No, you're not, because
No.
that's
Yeah, I know
undeniable.
her from Ernest Scared Stupid.
I agreed. No, I agreed.
I love you so much. It's like I wanted it to happen, and it happened. Thank you.
I had to dig in my brain, and honestly, I don't even know if it's her. I don't know.
That's probably not true. I'm gonna like correct you now on the blog. Like,
Probably
unfortunately, Bridget is wrong about
Okay,
this.
I've gotta look now.
That's like, I know William Shatner from his cover of Major Tom.
I was gonna say I actually know what that is.
The best one is Rocket Man, because I'm a rocket
Yeah, Rocket
man.
Leonard
Man.
Nimoy and
Yeah.
William Shatner.
Rocket Man.
I am the worst. It was Eartha Kitt and
What?
Ernest Scared Stupid, so that wasn't even a relevant joke.
Yeah. Wow.
I hate
have to cut
myself.
The whole thing out. Anyway,
I'm as trustworthy as a WordPress blog.
listen to Shatner singing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." It was the first thing I ever heard him sing, and it is absolutely demented. I laugh every single time.
William
Every
Shatner's
single
music
time.
is just grossly underrated.
Does he sing?
I
or is it just
agree.
like
It's
spoken
just
word
speaking.
over the
It's just
music?
him speaking.
It's spinging.
I don't picture him
Spinning.
singing.
By the way, his album produced by Ben Folds is amazing.
Well, yeah, because anything Ben Folds
actually.
does
By Ben
is
Folds.
amazing.
Heck yeah.
That's only because Ben Folds
This was in my
did it.
radio
Yeah.
hosting days. It was in the mid 2000s, and I got it in the studio. I'm like, this can't be good. I listened to every single song, and it is absolutely amazing. It's more touching than it is funny, actually. Just have to mention that out loud. It's gonna make the episode.
He's gonna cut
You
out
know what?
all of my
Sorry,
jokes
bro.
about the
I'm gonna embed a
WordPress
song.
blog, but he'll include
Go
that.
sorry,
Yeah.
bro.
For this, yeah, exactly. You're welcome, America.
You're not welcome.
I did want to mention something about Cooper Howard's looks moving forward. One of the things we noted was how immaculate or ish looking the ghoul looks. And I'm just noticing that he's progressively looking more dirty, more unattractive as he travels through the
Tell
wasteland.
that to the women of TikTok, but okay.
I know. I'm saying this in light of
Ish.
that it's almost doing the opposite effect of what it should be doing. Because I'm noticing that they're making him his teeth look a lot more yellow in this episode. The opposite of what it's doing is it's endearing more people to him because his looks are being normalized as every episode goes. So they're not noticing it, but I'm noticing
Well,
it.
When we first see him, there's like these IV bags that he's hooked up to.
Yeah.
So whatever that was, he's not getting anymore.
Well, theoretically, sure. But I think the reason why he doesn't look as ghouly as he should, typical of the video games, is test audiences.
Ghouly.
I kind of dropped the word test audiences in the first episode. But yeah, if he looks absolutely horrible to look at, I don't think the audience would see him as anything other than terrifying. And I think they want you to see him as somewhat sympathetic in some form or fashion. And when you can't look at someone as an audience, a general audience, they're going to reject that character
People
whole
are
cloth.
horrible.
And so I think they had to make him. It is what it is. We are what we are.
I read an article too that talked about the costume designers, and they were discussing why they made the ghoul look the way they did. And they referenced things like The Last of Us and The Walking Dead. When you look at like walkers or clickers, they're monstrous creatures. And yes, they both used to be human the same way that ghouls did, but ghouls retain a degree of their humanity through being this monstrous looking version of themselves. And they wanted to portray that a little bit more. So they made them sort of less atrophied than they would necessarily look in the game, just to, like, to your point, to help us to see that humanity that's still
Right.
there. It's easier because every time I see a screenshot of people saying, oh, I was in love with Hancock long before the ghoul came around, and Hancock is a ghoul from
Gotcha.
Fallout 4. And I'm like, why though? This guy looks
Right.
horrible. Like, just terrible. I'm like, I would never have guessed that
Yeah,
people
some
were
people
into
out
that
there
kind of thing.
rating
Like,
ghouls like
but-
he's a 10 for sure.
Yeah, like he's definitely a 10 out of 10 for ghouls. And like that, the man has no
Wait a minute,
lips.
hold on a second. So,
Like,
so if
what?
somebody put up a website called Rot or Not, would that?
Or not.
That is kind of an old person
Say
joke
Rot or
because
Not
Hot or
dot
Not
com is not a
it
thing
hasn't been a
anymore,
thing for a
Dave.
while. Yeah.
Well, maybe it is,
all right.
but nobody
Yeah.
uses it anymore.
Some people will
anyway.
get it. Which, by the way, so now that we have to explain it, it used to be a site where people would post pictures of themselves and you'd swipe right or left to rate them, and everybody would have a rating on how hot they are. And I didn't have a very.
I was
good
like
one.
a 7.
Actually,
Well, I
I
was
like
like a
really good
7
ones.
to yourself.
I wouldn't
which
even
for
put
me I
myself
felt like
on
was
there.
pretty good.
Why would you join social media ever?
I couldn't put myself out there like that.
By the way, Francisco's commenting on the Rot or Not. People trying to sexualize ghouls. Geez. Yeah, well, there you go. I would love to see what the test makeup was for the ghoul. I would love to put up an article that showed the transformation of what they thought they were going to use versus what they ended up using.
I had seen something just like scrolling on TikTok.
Test
It was
makeup?
like, I must have been a joke article because I can't find it anywhere, but it was like Walton Goggins tells women that they need to talk to their dads about finding the ghoul hot or something like that. There are so many articles that he's done. He's done a ton of interviews since this came out, which good for him. And I'm glad he's finally getting more recognition because he really has gone unrecognized since Justified, honestly. In those articles, some of them, he talks a lot about like what it's like to have the makeup applied. And he said that overall that is really anxiety inducing, which our friend Rachel, who has done special effects for herself, was miserable on casting
Can
day.
attest to.
So I can only imagine.
It can be very suffocating to have all that stuff on your face.
When he was dunking Lucy, it almost looked like he has a really bad sunburn because like his lips are still bright
Yeah, it looks
red.
like a burn
That's kinda what
victim,
I'm referring
the way
to.
they did the
Yeah.
skin.
He's super tan.
Like Fire Marshal Bill.
Yeah, yeah. Except without the anyway. But isn't it true? They're progressively kind of making him a little bit more detailed and gross, and not gross to the extent of in the games, but just gross enough. I'm paying attention to that. I just want to see if they keep doing that, or maybe with the lack of drugs, he progressively does look a bit more ghoulish. I don't know.
Whatever was in those IV bags might have been keeping him preserved, and now he doesn't have it. So
Well,
he
I
might
did
be
like the wheezing part.
rotting.
Kind of like the question you asked about why didn't they just steal the water chip from the other vault?
Because they're dumb.
When you see Cooper Howard wheezing from the lack of his drugs and using it as an inhaler, you get to see him use it. I thought to myself, well, you don't have a nose to protect yourself from the dusty wasteland. I think it would have been a shortcut and more interesting to see him have some sort of face mask to cover himself from all the dusties. Must be inhaling because he has no nose. Did anybody think of this while
Literally never.
that was going on?
Nope,
It did
not even a little bit.
It didn't actually, no.
I just
Didn't really occur to me that is probably an issue.
because your nasal
for
cavity will
him.
dry out and it's not very comfortable.
He's also 230 years old, so I think he has bigger problems.
That's sort of what I'm about to say is that, do you know when they film winter scenes on The Walking Dead or any other show and the coats are open and you're like,
and nobody
Mhm,
wears
it's
a hat,
actually hot on set.
or
scarf.
scarves and hats?
then you won't
It's
see for the
because
pace
you
you
want to see
paid
the actors'
for.
faces. Exactly. That's really it.
And it's
Mhm.
usually hot
Truly,
on
because they're
set
in
if
Georgia.
they're in a.
Yeah, they're in a studio. It's air conditioned.
That's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
I have to. Sorry.
I'm like in the lot.
But you know,
That's not-
it's like
The
they
lot.
film out in the Georgia heat, so you know what's the difference?
Yeah.
But and your whole point is to immerse you in a world and convince you that it's cold. But if you're sure, anyway, it is to see their face, sure, and it is to see Walton Goggins' unconvincingly disgusting face. Probably. Oh, look! Behold the CGI lack of nose.
In the very beginning, the new writer of the movie says to him as he's walking out, he's not really paying attention to him anymore at this point. He's like, it's a story about you, your gun, and your personal code, which is very much what the game is about. Typically, any of them. It's just you, your gun, and whatever morality you subscribe to.
Which
in your
applies to
adventure.
everybody in the
So,
show.
I thought that was very cool.
essentially, at the present.
Yes, yes, exactly. There was a little Easter egg at the lake. There was a rusted out truck for Sunset
Yes, I wrote
Sarsaparilla.
that too.
That is a common drink, especially in New Vegas, and it has health regeneration benefits, almost akin to a stim pack. So they're actually a little bit easier to find and very,
In the
very
Mojave
useful.
Desert, particularly in New Vegas.
In the Mojave, yes, in the Mojave. And then Maximus's fight with the group that's trying to steal his power armor, the way he was laying there after they knocked him out the first time definitely reminded me of you running into an encounter and immediately getting your butt handed to you and you die. And so you have your little game over screen where you look at your dead body on the ground. You reload your save, and then he comes back with like slightly better prepared, so he gathers up whatever weapons he can find in the immediate vicinity, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go in with a better plan, and it works this time. Like, just barely. That was very game-like to me. The girl that repairs his little thing out of his armor, she has a synth voice, and I'm wondering if she is a synth or if she just has like a robot voice synthesizer.
I saw that thing on her cheek. Yeah.
Right. Synths usually do their best to hide the fact that they're robots. Her having this voice that's very robotic is very telling. So it makes me question if she is that. But in Fallout 4, the railroad smuggles synths out of the vicinity. They come from the Institute, which is in Boston, and hide them elsewhere in the country. So I'm wondering if she is one of the refugees that they smuggled out, and she finds a place in California because the stigma against synths maybe doesn't exist over there because they don't know what they are.
And who would care at that point out in the wasteland?
Yeah, exactly. Does it even matter? She's providing a service to them similar to like in Fallout 4, there's a character named Nick Valentine who is very obviously a synth. He's got a robotic face and body and everything. And people accept him because he started off just helping people out around the city. And so they turned him into their local detective. So, because he like solves mysteries around there for them, and he's one of the best companions you can get. So maybe she's the same thing. I just noticed that about it, and I was curious about that character, and I'm a little disappointed we don't get to learn more about her. She's just the repair shop girl.
I wonder why they want to buy teeth.
Why not? Because it's like the olden times.
Shrapnel?
Oh, maybe for the junk jet?
Well,
that would be really good ammo.
Maybe just people lose teeth.
Yeah, we're back in like olden times where Washington had wooden teeth and you could replace with actual teeth. Hey, capitalism still exists.
That's true.
He did
No,
not.
I know it's not true.
Real.
He used, some his slaves, some other people.
They were like ivory
it's a collective of
dentures.
teeth.
Ivory dentures made out of real teeth.
Yeah.
Just kind of gross.
Yeah.
I have to say I love the set design for the town with the airplane fuselage.
Mhm.
It made me
Philly,
think
yeah.
of the heaps.
Yeah.
They just need some shipping containers. They put so much thought into it, like the Nuke Cola sign hanging over when he comes out of the little tunnel, and there's the Nuke Cola sign up above him. And
All of the signs are repurposed too. So you notice there's like an old faded sign and they've handwritten something over top of it, like the barber slash dentist. Like that's very 16th century. Like we're back to barbers being dentists also.
To release the humors, essentially, for your body.
say, who's the
Something like-
barber here?
Got ghosts in your blood. You should do drugs about it.
I do wonder though about the synths. Maybe bringing up the synths is just one too many complications. Because as of now, we don't know that they exist technically. However,
in the show, it's not even mentioned.
not to
but...
stop your flow, but we did get a couple of references both at the very beginning and at the very end to Mr. Handy again. You do see one wandering in the studio lot, California Crest Studios, just small as we pan over it. And then we do see the billboard, your best friend, Mr. Handy, the billboard for Mr. Handy. So I feel like they're teasing the heck out of this thing, which will hopefully be a very important character later. But we'll see.
Maybe.
Oh, when Lucy is awkwardly grooming and petting Wilzig's head, that thing in his neck shocks her.
Yeah.
Why? Okay. Okay.
I can't say.
I guess a better question.
That's a bad question.
Will we find out why it shocks her? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll find out why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I found that strange.
Just keep it in the back of your mind.
That does
it'll
go
come
back to the blackboard that Wilzig had in his lab about magnetic fields and electrical fields and stuff like that. So I think that has something to do with what's in his neck. So that might have relevance to. One interesting factoid, the very thing that Cooper Howard shoots at the end, the Vault Boy, essentially, the Vault Boy's face on the billboard. This billboard says, sign up at your local vault. It's never too late. And yet it has a doomsday clock on the right. The doomsday clock was an advent that was originally invented in 1947. We're always 90 seconds to midnight because of possible nuclear war, essentially. It's an advent that was created during the Cold War, essentially, because as soon as everybody started having nuclear weapons, we're in a constant threat of 90 seconds to midnight, essentially. And so it's like, it's never too late, but we're 90 seconds from apocalypse, essentially, always.
Yeah. It's not too late until it is.
Which is kind of what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's not too late until it is, essentially.
Time is running out, but you should still do it because you still have time right now.
But
so you should do it.
You do, but you don't.
Yeah.
But it does kind of go back to what we were saying about the Cold War having run double time than it did in this world than it did the original world, essentially. They got so used to communism, and yet something was brewing and something was about to happen. But the people at that point had been like, it's not happening.
One more thing that's essential to the feel of what it means to play an open world game the way that Fallout games are. One of the last things the ghoul says, that Cooper says, is the Wasteland's golden rule: thou shalt get sidetracked by BS every time. And I have cleaned that up a little bit, but that is very true. There's a main quest and it seems urgent, but you're going to forget about it. You're going to do something else, just like he's doing by pausing on the main quest and going to do something else, because in that moment it's more important to him. And that happens in every open world game ever. You avoid the main quest for as long as possible because you get more time in this world that you enjoy being in. So does he enjoy being in it? I don't know, but he's essentially choosing a different main quest for the time being.
About by taking her to get more serum or whatever it is.
Yeah, just to wherever he's going. I'm not going to say because we haven't seen it yet.
Gotta get his fix.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to replace his drugs.
Yeah, and so it goes to what we're saying about being completionists.
I feel you, Ghoul. I feel you.
I need my drugs.
The water chip has been destroyed is actually a reference to the very first Fallout game, the 1997 Fallout game.
Yes, it is.
Because that is your main quest in that game. It's the reason you go out into the wasteland is your water trip is destroyed and you have to go find one.
Yeah. Karina said that in the first episode.
I did. I kind of
prematurely.
jumped ahead and said that when I prematurely.
She didn't
my
know.
Bad.
She didn't know. I wanted to say that at the top of the show, but anyway.
My fault. Yeah, but it's interesting because they are so against Lucy leaving the vault.
This happens.
Revelation. Oh, their water chip is broken. In the first game, solved that. Well, they send somebody out to get a new one. So they would have had to open the vault anyway.
so it makes you wonder what they're going to do for this
fix
one
that
too.
Water chip problem.
Right? Are they just going to die?
Yeah. What is the solution going to be?
I feel like that's the kind of thing that you would want backups of. Why don't they have another
You
one?
would think. I guess it's one of those things that they designed it to be never have to replace. They don't intend for you to replace it.
They've broken several, and that's the only one they've
maybe
got
it's
left.
the last one.
Maybe.
Yeah, a lot of sci-fi deals with this too.
Last
Maybe
water chip.
31 has an extra one.
We said that earlier, but it also is a problem of after so long, sometimes people in technology, they don't know how to recreate it, remake it, fix it, or anything like that. You just assume that it exists. And it's kind of concern that we have now. You have too many people that don't know how new technology works enough to be able to repair it, remake it. We're in a culture of replace, not repair. And so this is an interesting conundrum that they may have. They have all this stuff and they never have had to fix it or replace it because it's American made. Yeah, America.
Not really, but okay.
Which is
definitely not made in America.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's very
Yeah.
ironic. Tiny Easter egg going to the conversation we had last episode. You had mentioned the Roman outfits. You do see some of the Roman outfits on set. There's like a pair of folks in Roman outfits in the past.
Yes. I had that written down, but I omitted it because we were running out of time.
There you go. That's it.
I was like, isn't
That's
that important? Maybe not.
If you don't know what we're talking about, refer to the last episode. And if you like what you heard, head over to ratethispodcast.com/Squawking Dead. 5 stars and a sim pack is all we need to know that you love us. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. But remember to tell us after every single episode. And if you really like what we're doing, head on over to either Ko-fi or Patreon and just follow us for free so you could join us in these episode breakdowns. We make these schedules only available on Ko-fi and Patreon. That's ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. You can join for free. To follow is free. All you got to do is follow and you'll get those schedules. But, and I stress, but we do need your support because without it, we cannot be self-sustaining. If you tip us, you can get the unedited episode recordings immediately after they've been recorded, as well as join Discord. When you do tip also, you don't have to join a membership tier. You can just tip us and you'll have forever Discord. Or you can decide to join a membership tier on either Ko-fi or Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and you'll be a part of the action forever, as well as get tons of perks in the Ko-fi shop. And if you join the Whisperers tier, you can get a free t-shirt after 3 months. And if you join the Survivors tier, the Elite tier, you can join us on these episode breakdowns. Why not? Well, I'll tell you. You'll get that t-shirt for free immediately, as well as a ton of discounted perks in the coffee shop. Basically free. Everything's free when you're a survivor. With that, I've been your host, David Cameo, and you were joined by CosmoMom09, Rachel Burt, aka Thaddeus on the screen, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, aka Night Titus,
you called me Thaddeus,
and Bridget, ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUASETER. And of course, thank you so much, Karina, for being here again. You can reach Karina Davey on Instagram at CARINAE_D. And I love your TikTok, by the way. I just finally found your TikTok, and you have some really funny skits. It's one of the more recent episodes. It felt like an episode, but anyway, you should follow her there too. She's hilarious.
I'll have to find you. I'm not good at the TikTok, but I try.
Look at our last TikTok post. I tagged her in the description.
Okay.
You can get her there. For all of you, not just you, Rachel.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an art one, and I often forget to film myself doing art because that's not my process at all. So I have to fill it with
just follow your process.
So I don't have to interesting stuff in there.
We're just gonna take us out.
What a girl
and I'm proud to be an American, or at least
I'm not gonna sing "What a Girl Wants" over "Proud to Be an American."
I think it matches up really well. We're gonna do it now. We're gonna do it.
Oh my gosh.
What a girl wants to be an American. Whatever makes him happy, sexy and free. And I pray to God.
Make it stop. Make it stop.
American.
That's it. We did it.
God.
We did it.
Yay.
Thank you for that. Thank you for letting me do that.
Whoa, he didn't
Not
let
like you had a
do
choice.
it.
Yeah. You just I did not get a consent form. So there you are.